Hello, everybody. We are starting Level Up. This is the intro. Welcome to Level Up Academy podcast, where we explore the diverse set of skills that can be applied across various industries and professions. Each episode will deep dive into the world of transferable skills, discussing topics like communication, problem solving, critical thinking, and more. Join us as we speak with experts in different fields and share stories of individuals who have successfully transferred their skills from one industry to another. Whether you're a recent grad, a mid-career professional, or someone looking to make a career change, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's discover how you can leverage your existing skills to excel in any industry. Welcome to Level Up Academy podcast. This is your host, Dr. Leland, a serial educator, an opportunities designer, and a compassionate leader. Sorry, I'm just like this. Usually I don't bring out my guests right away, but we got to talk first, right? And go from there. Before we start, I wanted to just shout out two people in my community that it's near and dear in my heart. And I'm reading your book, and I have a lot of books I'm reading. I think 6 right now. And I when I read, I take notes because I'm a kinesthetic learner. I also a visual learner. So I look and I like pretty pictures and then I take notes. Okay. So this one is from Jerry. Oh man, you can't see it. I'll put it in. It's actually called New You Discovering the Magic Pill for Health and Happiness. I'm going to take out my green screen and you guys are going to see my mess because I don't care. At this point, I'm like, well, our topic is growth mindset and motherhood. Hello.
Right.
So, you got to be, make sure that we're all authentic here and see my mess. I don't care. This is my mess, people. I'm on my podcast room. I do have pinball machines because we love pinball machines. This is actually back in the 70s, each one of these, flown from Germany. And it took about a year and a half to restore them, each one of them. That's my husband's thing. And anyway, this is Jerry's book, New You Discovering the Magic Pill. Yeah, and Jerry actually, I don't know if you see the back there. He's not on but he lost like so many pounds.
Wow.
Just doing hydration. So he's a hydration expert and certified nutritional therapist. So Jerry Costiga, if you guys haven't done anything, he hasn't paid me or anything like that to sponsor. Okay, everything that I do, I don't get paid. I just want to put it out there. I love my community, and so when you guys send me stuff, I want to highlight you. And that's actually a good book. It was so depressing reading the first thing. I'm like, Jesus, can this man breathe right now? Just a lot with the debts and yeah. And then I got this yesterday.
Oh,
Stephanie Delfonso. Hello. First of all, wow. I'm just reading. I just got this yesterday. So I read basically all the way to page 9. That's all I got. But there's so much in here, and I can so relate when she talks about how motherhood, and it's our conversation today. This is how she started about motherhood. And sometimes we have so much cup and we play so many roles, and her cup just got full that when one of her child, it was a Cheetos, like, the junk food Cheetos.
Right.
It just got to her and she literally just smashed it like a child. And like, I'm so frustrated, and I could relate to that. I had a moment where I said, I don't want to be a mom. I'm done. Like, I can't. Who told me motherhood is fun? It's not. What is happening here? And, you're like, you need to procreate. You need to. Okay. But first of all, no, this is no. And, I always say I'm an only child. So I have 2 hands, one for each child. But then I'm like, okay, but my husband's a child. He can't even do laundry he can't even put his socks where he needs to. Like next to his bed is a sock thing, right? A laundry basket. No, he puts it next to the laundry basket that I need. I'm like, okay, what now? I need to like train my dogs just to pick up his socks. Oh my God. So that's really funny. So that's what we're going to be having a conversation with Lachelle, of course. But first, I want to make sure that you guys know that in my community, I elevate everyone. However, I do filter. When I say everyone, it sounds like, oh, it's very like, no. I do filter because I want to make sure that we have added value conversations, right?
Mhm,
Because at the end of the day, I do have people that wanting to hear what is good for the community, right?
mhm,
And what can we get? And it's through stories that we get information from.
mhm.
But I wanted to share the countries that I'm in because someone asked me, like, do you have a list? I'm like, yes, yes. Do you want to help me with my list? But the yellow ones are the countries that people are listening in. I put
Mhm.
one in here because I'm Cam. Like, how many countries are we in? So these are the countries. We're at 63. This was two
Wow.
months ago. I haven't checked yet, but Afghanistan, Algeria, Australia, Austria, Bahrain, Belgium, Benin, Brazil, Brunei, Canada, of course, Chad. I didn't even Costa Rica, Czech Republic, Dominican Republic, Estonia, Ethiopia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, India, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Ireland, Israel, Italy, Jamaica, Japan, Jordan, Korea, Republic of South Korea, Kuwait, Lebanon, Libya, Mexico, Morocco, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nigeria, Oman, Pakistan, Panama, Philippines, Puerto Rico, Qatar, Russian Federation, Saudi Arabia, Senegal, Singapore, Slovakia, Somalia, South Africa, South Sudan, Spain, Sudan, Switzerland, Syria, Tunisia, Turkey, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, of course, United States, and Yemen. So these are the countries that I'm actually looking. But look how many countries there are, okay? And I have a long list, people. And that's my goal is to level up everyone. And I get asked about that. Like, what does that mean? That's the beauty of it because it means that each one of you guys right now doing something for your community, you're helping my movement of leveling up, whatever that means to you. Whether you're a mother, you're a caregiver, you're an inventor. I want to shout out to Tassi there because I love her pillow. Period. She said she's gonna make me a pink pillow. It's gonna be called CJ's Pink. So I'm
Oh,
buying.
I love that. I love
I
that.
know. I'm a pink girl. Can you see? Pink everything. But this one, I want to go back to Stephanie's book. It's
Mhm,
really good and it actually provides, we talked about the scroll with Paul today in your
mhm,
conversation.
mhm,
This one it provides you techniques, real techniques that works for her and for her clients, right? Because she
mhm.
does this for a living, and she has been. First of all, I'm so jelly with her voice, like so deep and sexy. Like that's what I'm like. Ooh, Stephanie, talk to me. Like you know what I mean? Like I want to be deep voice too, but I can't. Like I think it's just she's been on the radio as a DJ, so that's what she
Yes.
does. And I was like, I'm gonna practice. I swear I'm gonna practice. Low voice. My husband would be like, "What are you doing?"
I know.
Oh my god. But let's talk about you, okay? I want to get to know you. I know you through all
Mhm,
the platforms. We're busy leveling up everybody.
mhm.
And today I want to put you on that stage. The queen for me is like
Oh,
every woman in my platform is a queen and king, right? And every
mhm.
man is a king. But America's supermom. You remember my facial expression when you said you had 15 kids? Never been speechless in my life ever.
I'm telling it is so funny, and it's just something to hear it be said because it just for me, I was an only child also. And so seeing them all, it just seems like normal. I do notice when even one is not around, but it has just become my life. And so I just don't know anything different, but it's never a dull moment. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, I know we were just trying to talk about that, and you're like, ding. She's like, I don't know how to turn off this group message. We're like, what is happening here?
So
Oh,
true, so true. Yeah,
oh,
we have a group chat. I have 9 daughters, 6 sons, and, for me, I think daughters know how to take charge. They know how to be leaders, and so we have a group chat, so everything goes in the chat. we're getting ready towards the end of school. So we have a fifth grader who is going to be leveling up to middle school. So she's got a graduation. So they get these moments where when is the award ceremony, and when is her graduation? What time? They coordinate. So I've taught them well, but it's like nonstop with the group messaging. My sons are like, "Can we turn this off?" Because they're at school and this just dinging and things like that. So yeah, that's the story behind the group chat.
Yeah, I'm highlighting. I think LinkedIn user. This is my sister Marikit, Samantha Marikit.
Okay,
She's in the
okay.
Philippines. It's literally midnight, 10 mid past midnight. Like
Oh,
I know. I love her. She supports me all the time. She's like my best cheerleader. Of course, Paul. Like, why
oh,
would, yeah, Paul is always here. Gabe is here. Janice, sister. I'm waiting for that
awesome.
pink tossy, like literally. I'm actually gonna sell it for you with my friends. But like
Oh,
pink
that's
just
good.
just brings me like to because okay, first of all, I gained 20 pounds from I suffer from migraines, if you guys don't know. I have a debilitating migraine for the last 7 years. It's been good for the last year, but it was I had to get disability even for my schooling because 18 no 22 out of 30 days I'm down for the count.
Wow.
I vomit 18 times per day, 18 times I count them. And
Wow.
yeah, I tried everything to the point where I get depressed, I got anxiety because I don't want to go out, because I if I go out, when is the proper time to vomit? Like seriously.
Yeah. I feel, I saw this interesting thing the other day. I don't know if it was on TikTok or Instagram, but it is taking some warm water and adding mustard and soaking your feet in it. Have you heard of that for migraines? And
No.
they said, and even if you don't have the opportunity to soak your feet, then just taking a spoonful of mustard can help with a migraine. So
It
that's
must
just
be the
something that I
yellow.
think is
Okay.
fair. I
So
don't know.
I've done Eastern, Western medicine. I've tried, I've lost hair, I've gained weight, I had hives, like anything you can think of, I've tried. So I found my husband actually did research about Mel Gibson's dad who can't walk, who can't do anything. He went to Panama and one, I think, went to Germany. And they have stem cells specific for migraines that they use,
Mhm.
and they actually it's like $10,000, but you can't just go in there. You have to be referred by your doctor to get there. And then
Mhm.
I was about to go there and COVID happened, so I couldn't travel. And
Wow.
I was praying to God and I said, I know I have a purpose, but seriously, I can't see it right now. I'm done. I don't want to be
Wow.
CJ. I don't want to be a mom. I don't want to be a wife. I don't want to be here. I don't want to. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like when you're at that constant health issues,
Mhm.
always, you can't see the light. You can't see the road. It's just like, hello, where am I going? That's
Exactly.
literally me. And you add motherhood to that and you add
Yeah.
growth mindset to that. It's like, yeah, it's a fancy word, but when you're in it, you don't know what that means. What? No, right?
Yeah.
And it's been only like 2 years where I'm feeling better, and I actually got this medicine, and I know I saw Kardashian actually put it out there. I'm like, hey, I didn't know she had migraine, but Nortec, okay, for those of you, I tried the Botox in the back of my head. I wish Botox would be for my face, but I don't have wrinkles yet. I'm so scared of, and it gives me anxiety. It's 40 shots in the back of my head, 40 shots. Every
What?
time we do that, I would cringe and I would cry, and my husband had to hold my hand, or a teddy bear, like adult. I had a teddy bear. I'm like, because I get anxiety every time. I hate injections. I faint. This is why I don't. I'm not a medical doctor. I will never be a medical doctor. I'm scared of injections. And so they had to do it, and I had to stop. And I told myself, I'm like, really, that's botulism. Like, what am I supposed to do with that brain? And I had a couple MRIs, and I have white brain cells matter on my head, on my frontal lobe, and it's because of the scarring of the constant pain. And so I've tried everything, and Nortex so far works on a daily basis. It's supposed to be emergency. And then I have shots of Toradol, but because I go to emergency room every other day, my
Wow.
liver is cursing. My liver is cursing at me because it's just too much on that liver, right? And I don't like
Mhm.
medicine. And so I said, great, wonderful, CJ. Good job. You're killing yourself slowly. Why not? Why not? It's just, but you need that instant gratification because I'm to the point in my life like I didn't want to do nothing. I don't want to go
Mhm.
out. I don't. and my work was very patient and lucky that I was able to still function. And would go with level 12. Level 10 is the maximum that they say. Mine is level 12. It's to the point where my ears would bleed blood.
That's
My br-
crazy.
yeah, my brain pressure was just, and you know what my dad said? Maybe you should just be dumb. Just don't be smart. Like you're thinking too much. I was like, Dad, wow, thanks. Like, is that a compliment or is that
Right.
something else? What is happening here, Dad? And she's like, stop thinking, CJ. Stop doing this project. And
Mhm.
I literally just went on nothing. Like I didn't do anything. And then when I became a dean, that's when I started my project last year. But I lost best friends. Like yesterday, I was talking to Sia, and she lost, and I didn't want to recognize that because it was too painful for me and I didn't want to cry again on
Yeah.
my life. But Sia shared yesterday that she had too many deaths in her family, and 3 months before her birthday, her dad died.
Wow.
3 months after her birthday, her sister died.
Wow.
So she hates her birthday.
That's sad.
Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
so like, and I didn't want to recognize that because last year was the most awful part of my life in terms of like personally, too many deaths in the
Mhm.
family. Couple of 3 or 4 of my friends died successor, like April, May, June, July on my birthday month.
Wow.
And then July, we found out that my mother-in-law was also dying of cancer. And then September, she was gone. And then, October 31st, my 12-year-old pup, my dog, my everything, my son, because I don't have a son, he died. And I was
Mhm.
like, nope, I'm done. See ya. I'm
Yeah.
checking out. Like it's that moment, like being a mother trying to be strong is really
Mhm.
hard. So I want to
Mhm.
get to know you. Go back. I know you can go back longer, but I want to just do 20 years of your life.
Mhm.
Where were you 20 years ago? How did you get here? And what type of projects do you have that level up our community?
Well, love the question, because 20 years ago, I was still having kids. I was still having kids. Our youngest is 9. So, yeah, I was still deep into mommy mode and building a legacy, is what I call my children. And, I would have been in the heat of my 13-year struggle with depression. I was hospitalized 3 times. So at that point, I was just coming out of my first hospitalization because my daughter, who is now 20, I was pregnant with her uh, during that whole time. But I think, in going back, I just remember having such high standards for myself. So I was an only child. Academics was what my parents really instilled in me. And so I just had this mindset that if you want to do it, you got to do it right. And, you don't depend on anybody else to do it for you. So I just had this mentality about perfectionism, always got to be the best. You can have anything you want if you work hard enough for it. And so that was my philosophy that I thought I could just transfer over to being a mom and having running a household and having a family. And I learned very early on that this was a recipe for scarcity, because you feel like, you got to be at your best, it's a sign of weakness if you're asking for help, all these different things that, in my mind, no one was telling me this. This was just me putting that added pressure on myself. And so my journey through depression was not being able to recognize the signs for myself, what my body was telling me, and what was happening in terms of the things that were out of control. So that I thought one of the key things was, how I managed my time. I had a checklist. I was so used to being an overachiever. So when I was not getting these things done on my list of daily activities, I would just keep adding to it. What I didn't finish today, I'd add it to tomorrow. And so something as simple as reflecting on, okay, I have 12 things on my list. I only got 5 done. So why am I putting 7 things on the new list for the next day and adding more to it? I mean, that just to me, this doesn't even sound right. Sounds like I should have said, okay, I got 5 things done. So maybe I should start with just 5 things on my list. But, that's that overachiever. Like, okay, something must have happened. I don't know what happened that got me out of my focus. So I can focus more if I put more things on my list. So this was a cycle that I was on, being an overachiever. And I had certain milestones that worked for me. My kids were making good grades. We would get to school on time. They would be complimented on their behavior. So there were those things that were going well that didn't really give me the insight to check into the things that weren't. I kept adding to my list, even though I had more kids, more responsibility. It just didn't even come across my mindset that I was having such high expectations. And so, fast forward to my third hospitalization, it was that time that I was able to reflect and I created my own signature coaching program from that. I call it Fresh Start. It's an acronym for 5 pillars that really helped me to get out of that depression state and maintain a life depression free. From that, I started coaching. And I am just a person on a mission, very passionate about conversations around mental wellness because I think through my journey of being broken, I am now a spokesman for people who are suffering in silence. So I'm passionate about platforms that I can get on. I have now my fifth book project. I had my book. Oh, here it is.
Yes, international, right?
Yeah.
Now what? That's what
So
when I
this is
see
a
that book.
hardback. I'm so excited. Yeah.
Wow, that's so congratulations by the way. I was so honored that I got to like blast it out on the first day. I was like, now what? Like I had an attitude, like Sandra was like talking about sexy confidence and because I'm a
Mhm.
kinesthetic and visual learner, I'm like, okay, so how do you do sexy confidence? Is that a face or I'm like, oh, so I just do sexy confidence. That's what I do, baby. Like I'm going to the world like
Love
I
it.
got problems more than you can count, but I'm going through that
Yes.
problem with sexy confidence. Let's go, like seriously.
You have to. I mean,
Mm,
because, no one is on the sidelines being a cheerleader for you. You got to do that for yourself. And, no one can really gauge. We've got so much going on. Our moods can change from like the wind, right? And
mm,
so we can't expect other people to be there for us because they've got their own issues going on,
yep.
and so I'm just passionate about sharing my story through books, my podcasts, panels on live broadcasts. I have a TV series. Any place that I can get in front of a camera or a microphone and talk about the importance of mental wellness because I realize that I have an audience. People hear how many kids I have and they sit and they're like, oh my gosh, what is she going to say? So I love to be the one to shine the spotlight on things that people suffer in silence with, and depression is one of them. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's a lot. And when I think back where I grew up and was born in the Philippines. And I told you I shared my grandma had 16 and she had a couple twins.
Mhm.
Um, and when there's one that's just out there crazy and my grandma's like, well, that came out one egg bad, like what am I gonna do with that one, like and I'm like, grandma, I didn't get it, and she's like, yeah, he gets into trouble, he goes to
Mm,
jail sometimes because he's just not there right now, and she loves him anyway because that's her child,
mhm.
and I said, okay, grandma, why would you keep saving him if he's like, you see, people only see the bad things that he does, but they don't see
Mhm.
his heart. And I
Yeah.
was like, what do you mean? And she's like, she gives me example. She's like, when no one was picking you up and you were on stage because your parents are not here, who was there to show up? I said, Uncle
Mhm.
Mario. And he's like, exactly. So when you didn't have shoes and he didn't even have money for his own child, who gave you that new shoes? I'm like, Uncle Mario. He's like, you see what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think we focus so much on what society thinks for that box. I'm glad Susanna is here thinking outside the box and beyond the box. Is we focus so much on what is expected of us rather than what we can do, right?
Yes.
And I met this I don't know, you guys, I'm sure you guys know Facebook. My daughter thinks I'm super old because I'm on Facebook. But anyway, I know. When I was saying TikTok, she's like, "Mom, don't embarrass me. Don't go on TikTok." So I went anyway. So that's what happens. Um, but she, I met Randy Zuckerberg is her name. I met her in person to International Women's Conference in LA
Mhm.
and in person. And her book, actually, I don't have it here, but it's really amazing about so many things that she does, producer, things like that. And,
Mhm.
she's the first one, by the way, to create Facebook Live. That was her project.
Wow.
And she said, I didn't know anybody but Katy Perry. I'm like, oh, nice. I didn't know anybody but Katy Perry. Like, seriously, right?
Mhm.
And she's like,
Mhm.
yeah. I invited her in my platform just to test. And it went viral. I'm like, no kidding. Like, seriously, you don't know Katy Perry? And she's like, yeah, that's how I started Facebook Live to test was with Katy Perry. And she said, I said, so why did you leave Facebook? And he's like, yeah, just me and my brother. We love each other from afar. So I left and stepped down and have my own production. And she loves, Bitcoins and all that technology. So I love her. But in her book, she said, do three things in one day. And I have done that. It's so funny she said that
Mm.
because I've done that in my life. And when I was little, my book, I have it in here too, is Zanzu's War. Have you ever heard of that book, Zanzu's War?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's a Chinese general, and it's actually awful story, but it's a Chinese general that was a nobody, but very strategic on the way he puts an example of people and the imperial at that imperial China back in the days. And basically what he did in the story is that he was just a strategist, and the king's like, hey, you're an amazing thing. We're going to war right now. Why don't you show me what strategy you have, for going to war? And he's like, okay, give me, your main concubines that you really love. And he's like, why? And he's like, well, I'll show you. So he literally gave like the concubines. I think I'm three or six of them. And he's like, okay. So every day he would say, hey, go ahead and you're each of your concubine. These are your lead. You have 10 people each of this concubine, right? And he's like, okay, about face. Show them how to do about face. And they were like, about face. Okay, show them about, left. And the women would just, because it's all women, they would
Mhm.
just laugh, Rochelle. They're like, about face, no way. Like, what? No, we're not military, right? He would do this for about the fourth day. He's like, I'm a bad leader. You don't listen, right? He did
Mhm.
it again. And he goes, now I want you. So he put the concubine on the spot. I want you to go ahead and lead your team to say about face. And they literally just laugh. So he picked the emperor's main like love concubine, right? He's like,
Mhm.
you're the leader. Go ahead and tell them and teach them how to do about face. And they still didn't. You know what General Su did? Beheaded her. What do
Wow.
you think happened? The emperor was happy? No, no. But then he said, you see, when you become a leader, you have that responsibility to make sure. And he told everybody else, he said, you have a bad leader because you don't follow. In order for you to be a leader, you need to be a good follower. Right. And I have that book since I was 5 because my great grandparents was in the military in China, and my grandfather instilled in us, because we're always in war, on to
Mhm.
follow that, right, that strategy of life. And that's what my book is for everything that I do on in terms of strategy. I use that like my guide. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone to mentor me. I wish I did. I missed out on a lot, but I figured things a lot about that.
That's
Now, go
that's
ahead.
powerful. That reminds me of a quote that I heard. Never forget what it's like to be a sailor because now you're the captain. And that is so true. You have to understand there's different things that you look at in those different roles. If you're thinking about being a leader as opposed to being a follower, there's just There's differences, but then there are some same similar points about being a good listener, about being aware of your surroundings, and keeping a pulse on what's actually happening, and what is the goal, understanding where you fit in. I mean, there's so many lessons that we can learn from that, but that is an awesome story.
Yeah, when I read that, I had to pause for a minute. Like I was 7, I was like, "Oh no, he's gonna be dead." Like that's what because I
Mhm.
thought it was just and I see stories because we're all only in Chinese. Like everything we learned was Chinese, and everything was that, and yeah, yeah. And I
Mhm.
married a non-Chinese. I made American, so I was the black sheep of my family. I got kicked
Mhm.
out from my own tribe because it's like you are a bad seed because
Yeah.
you didn't marry Chinese. I was like, but my heart didn't see Chinese or whatever. It just does,
Mhm.
And that's what I want to talk to you about. You
Mhm.
know, 15 children is a lot for my head to grasp because I've seen it in person with 16 with my grandmother.
Mhm.
Now, in America, that is super rare. I'm sure there's people out there that have that, but what are you doing to not only get out of depression? And I know you do coaching, but
Mhm.
where did you discover your power?
Well, I think it's the vulnerability. I think understanding that I can really beat and dance to my own drum, and I am the one that can create that context and environment. And so I have learned that being me is the one thing that I can always count on. And so I went through so much of feeling like I had to live up to other people's standards that was part of another issue that led to a lot of depression, because I felt I had to be at the top of everybody's level of expectations. My husband is a retired officer in the military, so there's the pressure of being an officer spouse. He's also a pastor, so there's the pressure of being a pastor's wife, and then just leaders in our community. There's a lot of things that I've been a part of, from PTO to, soccer mom and all these other things that, I was really putting the pressure on myself, feeling like I had to be perfect in all these areas. So it looked like me wearing a different costume, I guess, for lack of a better term, or a mask, because I had to pretend that nothing was wrong. And, this is just my own thinking, and be that perfect example in each of those different scenarios. And I learned quickly that that was just a recipe for disaster, because, the burnout comes from being an overachiever all the time and just living like in survival mode. A survival mode is really should be for something temporary. You don't drive your car on a spare tire for miles and miles. It's a temporary fix. But I was living that every day. And so having the now knowledge of understanding that I can be myself and I can be passionate about the things that matter to me. And that's where my energy and ability to keep showing up is, because I'm being who I am and talking about what matters to me. And so that's been a game changer, is realizing that.
That's so powerful. I think we're so busy everybody else's life and looking at life like I could be that, I could do this, I could do that. I'm sure you can. But
Hmm.
what actually can you do for you, right?
Right.
And I think if you add people pleasing in that
Mhm.
in that mix of amalgamation of emotion, wow, you're not going to get up. And
Right.
that's how I learned. It's like, it's really hard, especially in Asian culture. We have so much pressure on education,
Mhm.
um, that an A minus in my family is an F.
Mhm.
And if you have even 0.2% of wrong, you need to learn why you're wrong and you need to fix
Right.
it. And you need to fix it yesterday. And
Mhm.
that pressure has been on me forever because everyone's like, CJ, why do you have the need to have all these degrees?
Right.
And I said, it's because of my trauma, people. And
Mhm.
because of that trauma, education comes easy for me.
Mhm.
And it's like riding a bike, even though I don't know how to ride a bike, by the way. Um, it's basically like driving. Once you know, even if you haven't driven in months, you know how to drive, right? It's the
Right.
same thing. Literally, if you give me a problem, that's how I coach and mentor students as well as adults, is if you have given me a problem, I have specific questions that I ask from you, and then literally my brain, visually, I could see it in folders, and I could see it
Mhm.
in numbers in my brain that I could visualize. I know how to help you on these, but I can't help you if you're not willing to help yourself. At the end of the day, I can give you whatever tools you need. I could
Mhm.
teach you micro learning. I could teach you economics. But if not something that you're passionate about, you're never going to get
Mhm.
it. And it's
So
not
true.
because you're dumb. It's because you just don't want to. You're not intentional.
It's so true. I mean, we did a challenge and we talked about this briefly in the audio room this morning. We did 75 hard as a club on Clubhouse with the club that I have. And no one can go to the gym for you. No one can eat healthy for you. No one can do a lot of things that we just think there's a quick fix for. You have to do the work, and so it takes you being passionate about these things. No one can do it for you. So learning that early and recognizing what are those things that I need to do, even if it's hard, right? Do you need to get a friend, accountability partner, a coach? What is it that you need to do to help you level up? Because I think, just because we have an idea, we have to recognize that there's a gap there. That gap is your journey. So, what things do you need to have on that journey? If you're going to climb a mountain, you're not going to go with some heels trying to climb a mountain.
I'm going to try. I hope
You're
to be
going
in
to get
tools.
you're going to get the right supplies,
Yeah.
right? And so we can see this for certain tasks, but when you think about the journey, if you need to have a growth mindset, what are you doing to have a growth mindset? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you read? Do you have audiobooks? Do you have people that can help you with that? So I think we forget that it's up to us to create that environment that's going to help us to thrive and accomplish that goal.
Every time you say level up, I wanted to dance my sexy confidence. Like that word has been used so many right now with my people. I'm like, I'm creating a movement, leveling up. And people are like, what does that mean? I'm like, it means, what are you doing today to level up yourself? Like, did you
Right.
drink more water? That's leveling up, right?
Mhm.
Were you nice to somebody? Oh, another thing I wanted to add with my kids. This is not from me. It's Gramps Jeffrey. He's on my LinkedIn as well. Amazing man. Babyboomer.org. Amazing guy. He
Mhm.
basically said, hey, in order for us to really get our foundation about our children and get them to think of how to be kind to one another, right? He
Mhm.
said, ask a question with your kids and do it every day after school. I said, what is it? He's like, if you have, school children, and said, hey, what did you do that's kind to somebody else today?
Mm.
The very first day, they're like, what? But I have tested it, right? And my kids are already, I know my kids are kind, but sometimes, especially my youngest, just attitude. But when I asked that question, their action became intentional. I'm going to tell mom what I did good today to somebody else. Every day I would hear, Mom, I gave him my pencil, or Mom, I raised my hand because I know my teacher was going to call on him and he wasn't ready and he was about to cry, or Mom, I have someone help me and then I helped them in return. But they were intentional, right?
Mhm.
Intentional on being kind to somebody
Mhm.
else. So that's my thing for you, all people that are in here supporting us. What are you doing today to be kind to somebody else? And
I love
what are you doing today to be kind to yourself as well?
I love that because you said an important thing, and that's intention.
Mhm.
We could talk about all these warm fuzzies, but how do we incorporate that in our daily routine? That's the thing that we forget and we are not mindful of. And so simply asking that question, and questions are powerful. They really
Yeah.
are.
I want to add, Kimberly C said, I was the black sheep of my family, only non engineer in my family, my generation who went to college. My dad and uncle are engineers. They were like, what is wrong with you? Right? Trauma. That's why I'm overachiever. Remember, I just learned that Indian, Sri Lankan, and Filipino are part of my interest. Ooh, I'm
Mm.
Filipino. I'm Chinese Filipino, but like literally, I can speak the Visayan and Tagalog language in Filipino. So if you know that, we're gonna talk live in that language if you like.
I love that.
Oh, be careful with that challenge because I will definitely do that. Now, my next question is, how do you stay motivated and inspired when you're faced with setbacks or obstacles?
Well, I love this because, to me, motivation is something that comes and goes, right? And so I don't do things based on motivation. What I do is create the things with intention that I feel give me the satisfaction to keep going. So when I first got home from the hospital for the third time, I just made up my mind that I wanted to be happy. And part of me being happy is controlling the things that I can control and deciding and recognizing the things that I can't. So for me, that was a big thing because, what I was trying to do a lot of times in my history was trying to control things that I really didn't have control over. I can't control somebody else changing. I can't control somebody else's behavior, their thoughts, or anything like that. So I learned early on that the only person that I can control is myself. I can control what I think, my behavior, what I say, how I respond. And so those are the things that I started working on. And so I summed it up with deciding that I wanted to be happy. And so I thought, what are some things that I have to incorporate in my day that help me to be happy? And so that is really the thing now. It's a lens that I look through, being positive, you know, being solution oriented. A lot of these characteristics, even though you can have the obstacles, but they help me to keep going in spite of the obstacles and understanding that I could have an outlook of being more realistic rather than idealistic. So I think idealism is important because it gives you hope, but recognizing that that's just not going to be the norm 24/7.
Mm.
Even if I want to be happy, there's going to be times my kids are sick. There's going to be times that they get in trouble. However, if you decide, how can I be happy? Maybe it's just pausing, looking at something on Instagram of the seashore. Maybe you go to the seashore. What are some of the things that you can do for yourself to make that transition in spite of life's obstacles? So you take those moments. Some days have more than others of those times when you're intentional about changing the atmosphere or your attitude because you've been dealt some craziness, right? Some chaos is what I call it. And so understanding that you can make a decision to change or take time to pause to get yourself back regrounded because you're going to have those obstacles. I mean, we can be on this interview and then all of a sudden the internet starts acting crazy. You get
We just
feedback.
go with the flow.
You
You're
know
like,
what I
wait,
mean?
what
Things
happened?
happen. Yeah. So you have to be ready for those things because, otherwise, when some obstacle throws you a curveball, you won't
Hmm.
know what to do next. You'll be paralyzed and stuck and, second guessing yourself and not confident. So understanding that reality sets in where things come that are out of your control, but deciding that you want to come from a place of control whenever that happens has been the game changer for me.
That's so cool. Before I address this next question with Paul, which is kind of interesting, um, you're right. I think when I wanted to control everything, because when you're okay, think about before like marriage, right? Motherhood and marriage here.
Hmm.
When you're by yourself and you're single, you're controlling your own actions. You want to go here, you want to go there, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to dress this, you want to make up. It's everything you. And then I never know the word compromise. Basically, I don't compromise. Like, what? No, I'm
Hmm.
an only child. Who am I compromising? Nothing, no one. And I wasn't raised with my parents, so I don't compromise with my parents. I had a bad attitude, okay? I
Yeah.
really did. And because of my past trauma, I just felt like, the world owes me or my parents owes me because they've never been there. When really, in reality, it was your circumstance that you were in that situation. But instead of looking at it all in negative, which I have done for so long, I said, okay, because of this adversity, I am stronger today.
Mm.
Because of this adversity, I can talk about it. Because of this adversity, I can level up people. And I've died a couple times, like seriously inside, and almost died in 2011. And people are like, why are you feel like you're in a hurry? You're doing so many things. I said, in that moment, when someone tells you you have 7 months to live,
Mhm.
you shut down. And your children are 3 and 6. And you're like, now what? I have these kids. I'm going to leave them with my husband who's not here yet because he's working and hustling for the family. Where
Mhm.
are they going to go? Right.
Mhm.
And then you question yourself as a mother, did I do the right thing? What
Mhm.
am I doing wrong? Maybe I ate something really poisonous. What did I? Maybe I partied too much in Hollywood, which I did when I was young. And I said, "Oh man, I used to party hard." Like, people like, "Oh, you're a nerd." I'm like, "Yeah." But remember that school comes easy to me. I could literally review an exam, a 2-hour exam. I can take it in 30 minutes. I
Wow.
got out of class one time because my teacher told me for the whole semester, by the way, I got an A already. First day, I didn't pay attention. I was busy. I don't know what I was doing. I was 21, like talking about party with my best friend. And the professor got so offended. And she's like, "You're in this room to learn, Miss Chua," because that's my my
Mhm.
name. And he's like, "You think you know everything already in this class. So I challenged you, right?" And I said, "Okay, if you can solve this problem by hand, no calculator, in 10 days, in class, you're doing it in class where I can see you. I'll give you an A and you don't have to be in this class." Me and challenge, I love challenge. I was like, bring it. And it was a statistics class. And he literally will take the entire semester to it's like an Einstein challenge or whatever.
Mhm.
And I love math. And I was like, okay. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. And it took me 3 days to solve that for 4 hours a day without a calculator. But after that days, I was done. I got an A, and that teacher had so much respect. He's like, I've never had anyone did that by hand. I was like, school comes easy to me. I don't know what to tell you. It's my gift. And
Wow.
I didn't know about it. I thought everybody did it. Like everyone is in school, everyone did it. And I said, for a long time, I didn't understand that until literally my best friend is like, why are you going to school again? You already got a master. Why are you getting a doctorate again? Why are you getting another master? And she asked me, she's like, I give up with that question. You got issues, girl. That's what she just told me. And I was like, I didn't want to talk about my trauma. I didn't want to talk about the why because I was so embarrassed about my past. Like, yes, I was abandoned as a child. Yes, my parents wasn't there. Yes, I had
Mhm.
seen so many things. I didn't want to talk about those things
Mhm.
because that's taboo. Like, why are you talking about your family in that light?
Yeah.
Right? It's taboo. And motherhood, we want everything our children perfect. They're not perfect,
Mhm. Mm-mm.
right? No. But when you're growing so much as a person and you don't even realize it, when we had talk and conversation today is stop.
Mhm.
Silence is very uncomfortable because we're so busy talking and thinking,
Mhm.
but it is a gift. So I challenge everyone in here in this, whoever is still listening, team replay or live, take a moment of silence today for yourself and just breathe and listen to your breathing for 60 seconds. Just take a moment. You can't get that moment back, but take a moment because your life could end the next 30 seconds. You don't know,
Mhm.
right? Just breathe life. Take a moment for yourself. Work is going to be there, kids will be there,
Mhm.
problems will be there, opportunities will be there. But the opportunity to take a moment for yourself will not be there unless you choose to control it now.
So true.
Paul, it is questions, Lachelle.
All right.
I'm curious if you could have dinner with anyone, past or present, who would you pick and why?
Great question. For me, it would be my biological father. He passed away when I was 8 years old, and it was right before my ninth birthday, actually 2 days before my ninth birthday. My parents had gotten a divorce before that point, but I always hear everybody's stories about how he was so proud to have me as a daughter. And, he used to carry me around a lot. My parents met in college, and actually, the same pastor who married my mom and dad married me and my husband. And he was what many people would say a genius. He was the first. Um, African American who was the student council president in a city where it was predominantly, a white city. The school was pretty much all white, and he was the first African American class president. And so, what was really profound for me this year was during Black History Month, the newspaper did a spotlight on previous stories, and my dad had a story that was included in that spotlight. So he was very much of a um, he spoke out about injustice. And so I would just love to be able to listen to what his thoughts were, and how I can continue to forge ahead, with the things that I do with shining the spotlight on mental wellness, and really helping people with the tools and strategies in order for them to realize that they already are enough. So much pressure is given to people to where they feel like they have to compare themselves with other people, and they can't appreciate their own unique gifts. So for
Yeah.
me, it would be my dad, Reginald Kent Ford, having dinner with him.
Wow. That's so amazing. I love that.
Hmm.
I'm just trying to picture in that dinner, like, I don't do waitressing job, but I would love to just be a waitress and listen to the conversation. Like, how
Exactly.
do you, and I love people who are doing that, because my my family is all business owners. I think I just learned this 5 years ago that my family in China, one of my family in China was the largest manufacturers of Levi's jeans for 25 years. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
Um, there I have families everywhere, and when you hear about these things, it's like, wow, it's so amazing. And
Hmm.
then I heard from my mom when my grandfather died. We were trying to find the paper. He actually sold the idea, the pen in NASA, like the one that you take out and there the pen. He
Yeah.
invented that pen and sold it to somebody, and I'm like, where's that paper? I want to brag that rights. Like, where is it? There's got to be a paper somewhere.
Yeah.
And I invented a couple of things, but I never put it out. And I see people on doing it. I'm like, dang. And I have a lot of ideas, but sometimes, like I said, I think as mom, we need to actually look at what is important, because we don't have 24 hours a day. Okay. When people are like, I have 24 hours. I'm like, do you not sleep?
Right.
Do you not go to the bathroom and walk away? Like, no, you don't have 24 hours.
Hmm.
You have hours, maybe at 8 hours, and I do long hours in that, but you have maybe 8 hours where you could be productive.
Exactly.
So what are you doing with that 8 hours to level you up to where you need to be? And before we end, I want to address this. This is actually a really good question from Paul. Says, I'm curious, for anyone here as a parent, how do you navigate the fine line between helping and enabling? As a younger person, I hear so many people bash my generation, and they're right most of the time, yet they don't acknowledge the role that they played.
Hmm.
That is so true. And I think I was just talking to my girlfriend, right? Back in the days, women stays home to take care of the kids, right? They take care of their kids, they take care of the household. The men go out and, do their thing. Then industrial revolution comes. Everything that we do is now, hey, we're fighting for the rights of women. So now you're like, okay, well, now I can work. And even then, even today, I'm still fighting that, because we're still not there. I actually have a dissertation about executive women. We're never going to talk about that. That would be another hour.
Hmm.
But I think that there's a lot of issues with our society, and we like to blame and point fingers. But at the end of the day, as a mom, for me, I'm speaking for me as a mom, it's our responsibility to raise better people because they're going to be the future president. They're going to be the future business owner. They're going to be the future everything, right? It's our responsibility to pay attention to our kids. So many kids kill themselves today and the parents are like, "I didn't know that they were having depression." You do. You weren't paying attention.
Mhm.
You were busy. I'm not blaming you because I'm not in your shoes and I'm not in that moment. So I can't say anything really. But for me, my daughter was there 2 years ago during
Mhm.
the pandemic. And so when she tells me right now she wants to take a gap year, it's like a dagger went to my heart. You mean you're not going to be going back to school? But for me, her happiness and
Mhm.
her mental well being is super important. School
Mhm.
will be there,
Yeah.
but I won't have my daughter if I keep pushing.
Mhm.
Right? So
Yeah.
I am with you. We need to take responsibility for what we did for our children.
So
Because
true.
at some point, because honestly, there's a study out there. The first 10 years of your life decides the rest of your life. Whatever you know, whatever you're exposed to your kids in that first 10 years of your life is the formative years.
Mhm.
Anything after 10 years, it's just a bonus. If you mess it up, you're going to mess it up. Believe me. Uh,
Mhm.
it's the intent. And I always tell my kids, just give them a hug. Just, hey,
Yeah.
I love you, sweetie. Right? Boys, girls, I love you. And I know you're raising your children well. I need moms to raise their children, especially sons, better to be respectful.
Mhm.
Wow. Some of
So
them are
true.
men. How do you continue to say, okay, these are my 15 kids and I'm gonna raise them the best way I know how, especially the boys? Like, what do you do? What are some of the things that you would say to your kids?
Yeah. Well, first, I just thank you so much for having me today. This has definitely been a wonderful conversation, and it's only the tip of the iceberg, I think, because we could be here for hours.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I love the question too that Paul said about helping or enabling. And for me, it's the same with my children as it is with the clients that I have. It is empowering them to recognize that their voice matters. And I think, a lot of times I was in under the impression that success looked like what I thought success looked like. And so I was really instilling that type of measuring stick for my kids instead of letting them be the voice for themselves. And so when you are able to step back and let them lead you in that, maybe they want to be a jockey, right? Riding horses, or, we have a son who's a pilot. He has his own plane, right? And so those things wouldn't happen if they were limited by my expectations or what I wanted. I mean, a lot of the things that they do are way beyond what I could even imagine. I even have two of my kids in my book. I have a soundtrack, and so their music is in my book. And so I think allowing them to have a voice and then nurturing that voice, you know, the best way I think to lead your kids is to be the example that you want to see, because we learn more with verbal cues than we do with what people say. You can forget what somebody said. If you don't write it down, even though it's so profound, if it's not written, it's like you never said it sometimes because they totally forget. So much information is sent to us daily. But if you are living and walking an example, that's going to speak louder than anything you could ever say. So I think it's being that example. And you mentioned earlier about your grandmother dealing with one of her kids in jail. I mean, I'm fortunate I haven't had that happen, but my kids are, they smoke, they do all kind of stuff, drink. I mean, I'm not naive to that, but I want them to feel like they can always come to me, that they can always share that. I mean, they have me on their Instagram page, TikTok. Some of the stuff I think is crazy. I just don't share it. They get so tickled because they're like, "Mom, how many Instagram followers do you have?" Some of them have less than I do. And so they're trying to ask me for tips and everything, and they're like, "Can you share my stuff?" And I'm like, "Hey, if it's something that I would put on my page, I'll share it. But if it's questionable, I'll like it and keep it moving. So I think being able to have that ability for them to be themselves, knowing that I'm one of their friends, is going to come on my feed, I just support them, because I want them to be in a space to where they feel like they don't have to follow somebody else's mode. It's already a lot of pressure for them being a pastor's kid. I hear so many stories about people having bad experiences because they're trying to live up to an unrealistic expectation of being perfect. And so I'm always allowing them the space to be themselves and, try to be a better example so that they don't desire to do some of the things that I don't approve of. But they've got tattoos. I don't have any. I mean, some of them do, some of them don't, but it's just, I love them anyway. So they are a miracle that I'm able to witness every day. So it's just living the life to the best of my ability and being that example that I would want them to never feel ashamed of following.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. I know we went over, but this is such a great conversation. Like I wish we probably could talk 6 hours just
Mhm.
talking about being a mom. Like I have this, but I wanted to thank Paul and Kimberly having all this really great conversation going. And we need to talk more about all of these issues that we're going through and find ways because we learn from each other, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it is. Now, do you have a show, Lachelle, that you have? Can you want to mention that?
Yes, I have a Bold Voices panel every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have all kinds of guests that are business entrepreneurs and professionals on LinkedIn. So it is a show where you never know who's going to be on the show with you. We talk about a topic organically that we get maybe the day before, and we just have an open dialogue about it. So, a great place to network. We've created a community where we help each other level up.
That's right. I love it. See, it's everywhere. It's going to be a movement one of these days. I swear. And I think, Paul, I also want to mention you. You have a show, I believe it's every Wednesday with
Mhm,
Susanna, and it's
mhm,
right after mine. Thank you. So I can support you. Like if we're having the same show, it's kind of hard to support each other. Team replay. We could still do team replay. It's not a big deal. But I love that conversation. Both of them were on my show. I love to people, put them on stage. But
mhm.
um, Paul's show, I think, do you have a show with Paul too on Wednesday on
Yes, it's
Thursdays?
on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're doing the greatest salesman in the world by Ogmandino, the 10 Scrolls. So that's every Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's an audio room.
Yeah, and I
Um,
just went in today because it's 6 a.m. my time when you
right.
guys started. So the kids are like, "Mom," and I'm like, "Be quiet,"
Yeah.
like I just told them, "Be quiet." I'm like, "I love this conversation,"
Yeah.
but I wanted to also do a shout out for the rest of the month. So Kirsten Beck is going to be on
Mhm.
my show, but she's in Australia, so it's going to be at night for me. I
Oh.
think it's 7 or 8 p.m. It's going to be at night because she's in Australia, and then Deborah Jackson is going to be next Wednesday.
Oh.
It's all about community building, so it's kind of nice. Mike Wysocki is going to be next Thursday, and then I'm going to be on Donald's show on Saturday the 13th. I know. And then Donald's going to be on my show on the 17th.
Oh,
We're
awesome.
just flipping channels here. And then leadership. I mean, Peter Quill, if you guys haven't met him or connect with him, amazing leadership conversation over there. That's my passion is leadership. And then Jackie Lee Katz, okay, her story, she told me she's in South Africa. Um, her story is about being a waitress and losing the job, and then she makes 6 to 7 figures.
Mm,
And she's going to tell us how she does it. So that's going to be on the 24th.
love
And
that.
then 25th is Jan Puritz. And then Timothy Gleason is a CPA in Australia. And so that's going to be at 8 p.m. my time. So I have two podcasts on Wednesday, the 24th. But these people are leveling us up in that conversation. So I like to invite you guys watch Ring My Bell, ring Lachelle's bell, and then we're leveling up as a community. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And I love everything that you're doing and looking forward to more collaborations in the future.
Maybe a book. Ooh, I don't know.
Never know.
That's
Never know.
right. Bye,
Stay tuned.
everyone. You're right. Thank you.